Bitcoin's alive, what you gon' do? Mempool fees are high. Ordinal. Where does it stop? Nobody knows. It's a revolution, ayy. Bitcoin is the one, no substitution, ayy. With Shizzy and Yagobi, it's Ordinal Revolution.
Welcome back to Ordinal Revolution. My name is Shizzy. On this channel, we cover the entire Bitcoin ordinal ecosystem. What is up, guys? We have an amazing interview, guys, today. We have Leo from Alkimiya. Alkimiya is a way for us degens to get even more degen. I absolutely love this. We met Leo in Nashville at the Fractal brunch. It was amazing to meet him. Spencer, the lead guy at Fractal, was like, "You guys got to meet Leo." Leo came up, he introduced his project, and I was blown away by it. I looked over at Yagobi, I was like, "Dude," and we both looked at each other like, "This is pretty big." So we've been waiting for this since Nashville, so we're definitely excited for this. I can't wait for you guys to see this. It looks cool, and it's another way to have some fun on Bitcoin, right? So definitely excited for this one. So let me bring my partner here, as always, Mr. Yagobi. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, man?
Yeah, man. So we met Leo in Nashville. What are your first thoughts about, hearing, like, we barely got, we didn't get too much time with them, so we got a few minutes, but what are your thoughts so far?
Yeah, so, you described that moment very perfectly, right? Like, you and I both looked at each other and said, whoa, we can actually gamble against the mempool, right? Which is always a hot topic in what we do in the space that we're in, right? Lately, it's been kind of dormant, I'll admit, just because the entire crypto space has been pretty dormant in general, but things probably are going to start to liven up, right? So that's where I think this can come in and really be fun, because you can bet on how the mempool is going to be. You can long it, you can short it, right? Do you expect the mempool to be dormant? Probably wanted to short it the past couple, like, month and a half, but coming up in the next couple of months, you might want to long it. So,
or what about that Babylon moment when everyone knew it was coming, right?
Yes,
like, what about something like that where that on this block it's going to get absolutely nuts? So after seeing that, I was even more pumped to get Leo on to talk about this. So without further ado, let's bring him in right now. Let's bring Leo from Alkimiya. What's up, Leo? Thank you for joining us today, bud.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Yep.
Man. So we can't wait to dig into Alkimiya, but we kind of want to dig into you a little bit, if you wouldn't mind. If you can kind of tell us your background and kind of lead us up to your crypto journey.
Sure. So after graduating from school, I went to New York and just took on a typical TradFi job. I was doing equity derivatives, and I lost interest in that very, very quickly. And about 3 years into my full-time career, I started getting really interested in Bitcoin. And at the time, I was a very young person. I was fully bought. I was fully sold on the whole ideal of toppling the system and building a new empire with based on Bitcoin. All right, and I joined a small crypto fund in New York in 2017. And at the time, there was really not that many things to invest in, to be honest. I was the researcher there. I ended up spending a lot of time looking into the mining space. I went to China to buy machines, set up data center, try to figure out how to move machines back to the States. And so I ended up learning a lot about the mining business, and how the key players and what their constraints were at the time. A big theme that repeatedly came up during that this was around 2018, 2019, was that every time we would go to meet an investor to try to get people to fund the mining operation, the question has always been, okay, the return seems, the hypothetical return seems interesting, but can we get something that's more stable so that we can invest in? And that's when I started to realize that, okay, this blockspace production business, right? That's what it really is really like energy. It's really like commodity production, and just like all commodity, like coffee, precious metal, energy sources, right? They all develop a very robust futures market, and it doesn't matter if you're producing it or you're using it. Edison's hedges against electricity prices such that people can pay a flat rate, unless there's a massive snowstorm. But given all these repeating patterns, I figure that, okay, at some point when people are doing a lot of activities on chain, people would want to hedge against the fluctuation of the fee rate the same way that people want a stable electricity price. It's just the natural thing to ask for, right? So for average users, I don't think this is really a problem because when transaction fee is high, you can just simply wait. But for commerces, for centralized exchanges, for custodian wallets, for bridges, for rollups, they cannot wait. They have to settle regardless of the fee rate environment. So it's really painful if your operation has to settle a transaction during one of the 5 or 6 Babylon blocks, right? That just is like, how do you report to your how do you tell that to your CFO or investors? So this is sort of the, I guess, the blueprint for Alkimiya.
Gotcha. So you did a lot of research in that field of kind of how the mempool works and the high times and stuff like that. But like the I guess gambling nature of Alkimiya, right? Like in that aspect, where did that kind of, do you just like kind of to have that risk? Are you just risk averse type of person, or where did that come from?
Yeah, I think this product has a lot of similarity with traditional energy and commodity futures, right? So those type of instruments, they can be used in different ways, right? I mean, there are definitely day traders who would look at the I guess updates of Russia or Ukraine war and try to see that, okay, how these developments how would they impact the oil price, and they would trade accordingly. So similarly, for our markets, right, people will look at, oh, there's going to be a massive collection, and okay, Babylon is about to launch, and Fractal is about to launch, and these are sort of the equivalent of like real world events that's going to impact the production of blockspace. So yeah, definitely there's a strong speculative aspect to it, but also for service providers, right? That just the centralized exchanges that I mentioned earlier, for bridges, so they have to settle regardless of the fee rate environment. So it's really painful when they have to settle when the fees are particularly volatile, because they're hit with this negative externality that has nothing to do with them, right? They're just doing their day-to-day thing, and all of a sudden they have to pay like 2x or 3x, 9x of the fee that they generally pay. And these service providers, they can use this type of instrument to hedge against, to protect themselves against this additional expenditure.
Yeah, it's kind of like when they say being neutral, right? So obviously you have to use the blockchain, so you're paying the fees, but you can kind of use this to kind of, because you know it's coming, right? So you can kind of use this to kind of stay net neutral, right?
Yeah. So if your goal is to stay net neutral, you actually it's more beneficial if you, well, I guess it doesn't really matter, but if you don't know what's coming, if you don't have the capacity or just bandwidth to look at like, oh, what's happening, what's launching, right? Like, okay, there's this Babylon, because a lot of people, I don't know if you guys saw the tweets from some of the core devs on that day, and they were like, oh, is this another Ordinal? Because they have no idea, right? They don't look at these things. They don't look at on-chain events, and I think for a lot of bigger companies, or for example, like Coinbase or Binance, their operation person who's just doing these settlements, they're just there to do a job, and they're like, oh, now I have to learn like what Babylon is and try to avoid it. Like,
yeah. No, I bet you Luke Dash Jr. loved the whole Babylon day, him and ocean mining. But actually, now this is starting to all come together to me a lot more in my mind. The picture's coming together to me. It's not just a degen playground here. It is, our world is kind of changing, in the sense of people like us that are in the space every day. Instead of looking at regular commodities, the old guard, which is like oil, trading oil and all that stuff, is going to shift in the future to looking at the mempool and predicting, like you said, these events. If it's a huge collection comes in, like you said, or something like Babylon, and they, Binance or somebody might have a department for this actually, and hire someone that's really good at this, so they can kind of hedge whenever they have to spend that extra money. I mean, I know like side chains like Merlin chain and stuff like, have headaches big time with like the fees whenever they're trying to like do things on both sides. So this is actually really, really interesting. And I wonder how deep this rabbit hole gets to in terms of how this industry can really build out. Because that just really kind of blew my mind just now once you kind of talked about those events and how big this could be.
Yeah, and like if you know you're about to use the blockchain, and you can just long it. And that's what I meant by net neutral, because like if you know that you're about to use it, obviously you got to pay those fees, but you can just do you can take the long on it, because you kind of know that you're going to be the cause of that. Like if Babylon kind of went long on that there, but they're also kind of paying the fees themselves, they can kind of get back to where it doesn't cost as much. But then there's only other people only taking the other side of the trade, right? Because that's what it is. Well, if you take one side of the trade, someone else is going to be incentivized to take the other side of the trade. So if they're like, oh, this is going to be a big a nothing burger, and then they can take the other side of that trade, and that's where it becomes profitable.
Yeah. How do you protect how does Alkimiya protect itself in terms of like a huge event coming up? Like let's kind of just get into the meat of it. Like how does your platform work like that? Because I can imagine to where like the whole Bitcoin ecosystem community longs the mempool like on a big event.
Yeah. So before answering your question, I just want to go back to a earlier point just now about like these service providers using a lot of these activities moving on chain, right? From trading traditional commodity. If you think about it, blockspace, it really is a resource. It's an energy form, right? Like it is full node resources. It's compute, bandwidth, capacity, and they're all just denominated in fee rate, in Satoshi. So you're paying for, it's just a meter of all these different like actual physical resources that you're consuming to purchase, I guess, settlement assurance for your action. So for service providers who know they're going to do something on chain, they know that they're going to settle on chain, they know that they're going to be impacted by any of the volatility that's coming up during the period that they're doing things on chain. So for example, in June, there was an incident. So OKX was doing UTXO consolidation. It's a very that was a glorious day. It's a very normal housekeeping thing that centralized exchanges or some custodial wallets they do from time to time, right? Just they put their dust UTXO together, and they screwed up their scripting language such that their bots were actually bidding against each other for inclusion. So on that day, they paid about 18 million in transaction fee. That was entirely just it was a mistake, right? So, but these are things that exchanges do all the time. These things happen on chain all the time. So if they know that, okay, we're going to do this thing, if we mess up, this is going to be very, very costly, they should put some kind of like, it's equivalent of hedging, or it's some form of like insurance against it.
Yeah, that makes sense. $18 million of spending that was unnecessary. That's wild to me.
Yeah.
It is OKX.
Yeah, when you're OKX, it's just a bad day, right? That's not a bad year. Like it would be for a smaller exchange. So like MEXC would be like, oh crap, we just lost our everything for the year. But OKX, they're too big to fail, right? So they can recover from that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But
Leo,
still,
go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, it's embarrassing, right? Like, and it impacts other people too, because it's one thing that cost is entirely burdened by themselves, but like other people who are using the Bitcoin blockchain at the time are also they have this negative externality spilled all over them, right? It's like, okay, I can't use Bitcoin today because some junior developers made a mistake with their script, right? And this is the nature. I mean, I guess this is the blessing and curse of public blockchains. It's a shared state, right? It's a shared. We're all competing for this resource, so events like that it affects everyone.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I remember the UTXO consolidation day as well. It's so crazy. Like we know whenever those are like events on the calendar now that happened, right? But Leo, let me ask you. So you talked about Bitcoin was your first introduction to the space. Did you stay like mentally kind of like, okay, Bitcoin is the truth of everything and that's it? Or did you kind of open up your mind and venture off into Ethereum and other spaces as well?
Yeah, I did. I mean, in 2019, well, until 2019, all of my friends were maxis, and I think I was just really jaded by the ICO effect. I think everyone who entered the space around that time were jaded by ICO, and I think at the time I was also younger, so I think I was more pure in terms of ideology,
Yeah.
my beliefs, and at the time I didn't like the way that how Ethereum handled the first DAO hack, and so subsequently, like all the subsequent actions, I thought, oh, this is a failed experiment. This has lost interest. Sorry, it has lost its appeal, right? This is just going to become a floating casino on the internet. But at the time, I didn't realize that's what people really wanted.
That's true.
Yeah. But so yeah, I spent a good amount of time just only looking at Bitcoin until 2019, 2020. I started so the first iteration of Alkimiya was more for the miners. We wanted to create a sort of a platform where miners can sort of issue hash rate tokens, and these hash rate tokens it's kind of like what Luxor has today, but tokenized. People can trade it. People can issue their own in a much more easier way. So that was the first iteration of Alkimiya, and we wanted, and the tokenization part requires smart contracts. So and we looked into many different routes that was available at the time, right? RGB, and it was like, oh, okay, this is going to take like another 50 years. Right? We even look at Liquid, and it was like, oh my god, it's so cringe. So there's just no way to stay, I guess, Bitcoin native. So that just led me to stray further and further and realize, oh wow, Ethereum is actually all these toolings on DeFi that took place during those years were pretty awesome. And frankly, they make a lot of things that sort of interactions that you wanted to do in, I guess, real world possible on chain and with very little effort. So that's since 2019, I've been just much more actively studying the blockchains that have smart contracts.
Gotcha.
And sorry, just to add one more thing. And what became really fascinating, and I obviously didn't know that's related to Bitcoin at the time. So I was very close to the early Flashbox crews, and I saw how the ideas came into place, and how like different directions people wanted to take to battle MEV, and those like early forms of MEV evolved from just simple priority gas auctions to these like crazy cross-block sandwich attacks, and all the subsequent actions that Ethereum is taking to try to circumvent MEV ends up creating other new problems. And now that Bitcoin has an MEV problem of its own, very primitive, but it's MEV regardless, right?
Snipers. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was interesting.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's funny because you said you were pretty jaded from the IDO craze, but surprised you weren't jaded at some point from the DeFi craze too. Because like after a while, it was kind of tiresome, right? I mean, it was awesome, but it was like casino on top of casino on top of casino. But you are right; the people wanted that, right? And you brought up something that was really interesting about like how you were just really researching in the earlier Bitcoin ecosystem days, and RGB is something that people have been proclaiming that they have smart contracts coming, and bless those guys' hearts, because they tried their best with the limitation that they had, and then I mean, it is what it is, right? Like counterparty days, all those days. But here's the thing, though. All of a sudden, early last year, this crazy guy named Casey Rodemer comes out with the Ordinal protocol, and then all of a sudden, the Bitcoin ecosystem gets more attention than it's ever gotten before. Do you feel like this is the change this is the real change that's happening right now? Or do you still feel like we're stuck in those kind of RGB days, even though it seems like, of course, we've done more with ordinals, but we're still stuck in that with the limitations?
Yeah, I think the limitations are still there, but I think this is the strongest push culturally, because what Bitcoin lacked before was never like, oh, lack of top engineers, right? Like, it's never lack of the commitment, desire to build smart contract. It's just, it lacked the cultural push. I think and this doesn't reduce the significance of the ordinal movement, right? It's awesome because it changed the culture of the people who say, okay, Bitcoin has to be this way, and that change, I think, is far more significant than like, oh, okay, all of a sudden we're able to do these like simple covenants. They will happen, but the possibility for those things happening is now much greater because of the ordinal movements, because the culture has changed. And I mean, a lot of people who left Bitcoin, like myself, right? Like I was just there's just not that many things to pay attention to for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And you can't say anything.
Yeah.
You can't say anything without getting like destroyed by laser eyes, right? And you
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
even
yeah.
like argue with them, because it's just like okay, I think, Bitcoin needs more people should use Bitcoin, and no, you're wrong because you're a fucking vegetarian. Right? It's just like, oh, okay.
That's how they are. But that's the biggest that's the biggest positive, I think, from the ordinal movement, was that we were like, hey, baby boomers, step aside, kind of thing. Like, you guys can still be here, a part of the group if you want, but don't be an asshole to everybody else. And they're like, no, we don't like you. And we're like, well, we're here to stay. Here's our tent, we're parking it, and you're not gonna make us move. So
it was very similar to what Bitcoiners did to TradFi, right? It was like, we're here to stay. There's nothing you can do about it. And then Ordinals come along, and we do the same thing. We just mirrored what they did to TradFi. And it's just like, how don't you see that that's happening? It's innovation. A new generation is coming in and kind of taking the thing that you love so much, and we think we're making it better, but you think we're making it worse. The same thing with TradFi. They think they're making it better, but TradFi's, oh, you're just destroying what we created over the years. So, but yeah. It's very similar in that aspect, but let's kind of dig into Alkimiya a little bit. Can you talk to us about the team and how you got started? Are you the co-founder, and if not, then who is?
Yeah, I'm the founder. So we have 9 people in total. And 4, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, four of them devs, and we're still expanding. Right, we're always looking for new people to join the team. Yeah, I guess the origin story or what it's doing now. Which one would be more interesting?
Whatever you want. Time is yours.
All right. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, as I briefly mentioned earlier, the first iteration was trying to solve a problem for the miners, so that they can more easily issue something that represents their, I guess, the fruit of their labor, right? And tokenizing those the productions from a hash rate is a pretty effective way for them to move the risk around. However, in 2021-ish, the mining industry changed very significantly. A lot of the hash rate, they migrated from China to the US, and as a result, the profile of the player also changed. The typical kind of players that entered in the game from like 2021, 2022 are they come from energy sectors, right? Traditional energy sectors, and to them this is icing on the cake, right? So they are much more interested in playing traditional capital markets, like raising debts or just doing SPACs. They're much less interested in like tokenization. The crypto aspect is less interesting to them than the dollar value of the operation. So anyways, so the hash rate token idea, we realized around 2023, it's very, very difficult to make it interesting outside of the mining industry as well, right? Like, it's just very difficult to explain to an average person, hey, why do we find hash rate token interesting? and they have to learn all these new terminology, like, oh, petahash, like all of these things. It's just not interesting. It's just not. It's very difficult to scale beyond tiny, a shrinking set of people. But during this exploration, we realized, oh, people are much more interested in the just the gas / fee component of of what miners produce, and that was so on Ethereum. These rollups are starting to become really, really big, and they're starting to post like millions, 30 million to 50 million a month on L1 for call data. And these guys, they have a very, very clear need because they're always settling on L1 and they're always paying for it and they're always affected by the fluctuation basically on Ethereum. We had more of those conversations. I mean, we talked to like at Felton, we talked to Polygon, talked to everyone, realized, oh yeah, this is real now, right? This is a resource that these services consistently purchase. So instead of hedging for miners who produces block space, we create instruments. The current Alkimiya that you see is actually the third iteration, and the third iteration entirely focuses on consuming block space, which is paying fee rate, and that's it.
Awesome.
That's kind of well. You got a question? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna ask him about the possibility. I know this is kind of going back off of a different topic, but I just want to see where your mind is, because obviously you're related to Bitcoin. The fact that your platform allows people to kind of leverage the mempool. Would you ever consider, possibly building in a Bitcoin on a Bitcoin chain that does possibly like something like Fractal, basically, right? Would you consider doing something like that, a UTXO chain?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
I mean, I think at the time of this being recorded, it's still really early for a lot of these teams, right? I mean, there's a lot of awesome marketing that came out of many projects, but I think, yeah, it requires tooling, it requires liquidity, and it requires quite a few things that to sustain a project. Because if the trade-off is that, we say that we are now a slightly more Bitcoin native, but we lose a lot of the composability and the access to liquidity that EVM chains have, that will be a pretty painful trade-off. I think, however, I do think we'll see winners in that category. Definitely we'll see one or two in that category. But I think it takes a little bit of time to unfold. I think Fractal is interesting for a slightly different reason. I think Fractal is super cool because this is the experimental ground for OPCAT, and we're going to see like applications that are uniquely built for OPCAT. And if people are find it, okay, we love it, right? We want to do it at bigger scale. This sort of facilitates the conversations that the Quantum Cat guys are, pushing and making it possible on L1.
Yeah.
Sooner, hopefully.
Yep. But do you think it ever could be like similar to like EVM? Because like for an example, like Cardano is UTXO chain with smart contracts, but they've taken some time to really kind of. I know when they first announced their swaps, it didn't happen fast, but now it seems like they're there for like computation, ability on chain. But do you see like a UTXO model chain being similar to like EVM, basically what you guys are used to? Yeah,
I think some of the more powerful functions is going to take quite a bit of time, and frankly, we don't even have the technical roadmap for those yet.
True.
I mean, I think OpCat enables some pretty simple interactions, right? Like condition sending, for example, right? Like, but that's way more than what we're currently have.
True. Let's start with covenants, right? Let's just start with covenants to where like we can get those on like functionality going. But yeah, I agree with you. It's going to take some time. The infrastructure will build up, but I think eventually we get there.
Yeah, but something like Cat VM or something like Merlin, or there's a bunch of EVM chains popping up as well. That'll probably be a lot easier for you guys to kind of copy and paste, because at the end of the day, it's just Solidity code, right? So, I mean, that's something like that would be a lot easier for you guys than have to go out and get UTXO devs. I'm not saying your devs aren't, but like you'd have to pretty much,
It is a totally different
learn it.
It's
It's completely different. So something EVM based would actually be a lot easier for you guys, especially just getting started. But down the line, I think, having a UTXO model, especially if we get more opcodes on Bitcoin, would be huge. But that's obviously down the road. I want to bring up the website really quickly. So this is your amazing website. I love the look. Your UI guys are amazing. User interface looks amazing. I love what you guys did with this, but I do love the launch app part, and this is really cool. I was blown away by this looking at it earlier today. Could you explain kind of what is going on with this? Because at the first glance, I was like, okay, I had to spend a few minutes just staring at it before I could start understanding it.
I see. Yeah. So we definitely have gotten that feedback. And just to caveat, this UI is still evolving. It's far from what we eventually want to show people. But all the functions are there. The idea is that, okay, this is kind of a futures market where you can trade the average fee rate for a period of time, right? And the reason this cannot be a perp is because if this, so first of all, there are many reasons this cannot be a perp. This should not be a perp. But just to go back a little bit, this market gives you the ability to purchase the average fee rate from, let's say this one is August 31st to September 7th, and during this time you can if you think that, okay, there's going to be some like actions that's going on, that people are going to do things that's going to push up increase the activities, in general you think fees are going to go up from today. You can buy these fee rates, these fee rate contracts, I should say, but these are actually tokens behind the scene. And these fee rate tokens, they let's say you enter at 3.555, and the size is denominated in virtual bytes, right? It's just and with the price, which is denominated in set per VB, and size, this is the 0.0003 BTC is the payment that you pay for this long token, right? This long fee token. And if at the September 7th, the average fee rate during this period of time is higher than 3.555, that's your profit.
So you got it. Basically, you're taking longs and shorts on date ranges, correct?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I can hold this token for as long as I want.
Well, so on September 7th, you should claim. I
got you.
Yeah, but
close your position basically.
Yeah,
okay.
But it doesn't. There's no like penalty or anything if you don't close in time. It just so how it works is that the every block we calculate the median set per VB of all the transactions in that block. The reason we use median instead of like average is or something else is that median is the most resistant to manipulations, because fat fingers still happen on Bitcoin like from time to time, right? There was one transaction that had like 80 Bitcoin SB or something like not so long ago.
Whoa.
And so these things still happen, right? People still make a mistake on these things. We want to make sure that, okay, if you're seriously trading this thing, then you don't want like that kind of like isolated incident. So we take the median set per VB of every single block, and when you purchase a long contract, it's actually the accumulation of it adds up the median fee rate of every single block during that period of time that you have exposure, multiplied by the size is the Bitcoin notion that you have exposure. So back to your question, if you forgot to claim at September 7th, it just stopped accumulating at the September 7th.
I gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Cool.
So so your amount that you basically win or earn or whatever you want to call it, it won't change. It'll stay whatever it is after that date, even if you don't close it. How does the smart contract get the data?
Yeah. we have our own oracle that fetches from foo nodes and calculate the sat per VB, median sat per VB of every block, and then push that information on chain.
Nice.
It's pretty easy to verify because I think like anyone, well, not anyone, but the people who know how to play with like nodes, or can even just use like quick build some kind of service or mempool.space, right, to very quickly verify, okay, how far this deviates from the anyways, to verify the data source.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Gotcha. Okay, now I understand why you said the 7th is because that's what you're going against here. So you can change this, correct?
So there.
Future expired. Okay, so eventually there'll be something in the future. So and then I'll be able to get like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think he's asking: are the date ranges predetermined to where you have to take that date range, or is there like a custom ability to custom select the date range, or basically you're laying out, look, this is the date ranges that you can select?
I see. Yeah, so we're starting with these fixed date ranges from these 7-day, 7-day, 7-day contracts. Mostly because we actually don't know what people want, and so we don't want to create too many different ranges to split liquidity, right? So once we have more clear, because some people, they want really short, they want to trade like, I only want this day, and there are miners who want to lock in super long, they want to lock in 3 months, and so there's a balance that we need to find, and I think once that is more clear, we can support like different I guess end of the spectrums for different categories of players.
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking. It's like I'm expecting a bull run to happen in the next 3 to 6 months. It would be really cool to have something where I can pick, hey, January 1st or the week of January 1st to whatever would be. I'm thinking it's going to be a lot higher than it is today. Well, I'm praying that it's higher than it is today, right? As someone who uses the Bitcoin chain, but because the more volume we have on the chain, the more prices go up, right? So is that something you guys are considering in the future? Like obviously you said it depends on the feedback.
Oh, absolutely. This is one thing that we now know, that this is something that people want, right? This is particularly useful because the sellers are miners. The miners are not, because the miners, they naturally produce fee, right? So they already have it. They already collect this thing. So for them to selling it is a possible way for them to hedge against, I guess, drop in network activities. And for them, when the activities are high, this is a way for them to lock in a higher premium for fee rate that they may or may not receive based on how much hash rate they have. So for miners, they tend to they want to play with longer tenors. They want to play with like month or 3 month. So during this time, but for buyers who are just looking to trade based on events, would prefer shorter tenor. So we can have this duration mismatch between the sellers and buyers, where buyers are trading much shorter intervals, like 7 days, or even 3 days, 1 day. Whereas from the seller's perspective, they're selling, a month, 3 months.
Makes sense. All right. You got any other questions, Yagobi?
No, I mean, this is very, very interesting. I guess, how long have you guys been live for in terms of
this version went live on July 25. 25. That was on Nick Carter's first MMA debut.
Nick Carter. Okay. So was there any relevance to that, like in terms of why you went live during that?
Oh no, it's just I was in Nashville, so.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So far, what's the response that you've gotten? I mean, is it what you expected, or is it a little bit more than you expected, or what has it been like?
Yeah, the Babylon week was pretty crazy. I frankly was not prepared for that. There were quite a few LST projects, the Bitcoin LST projects, that were staking in Babylon, right? They use this platform to offset some of their costs. So that's the intended use case where they're very, very happy that it has proven. And there were definitely people who made a lot of money during that week. There were, I guess, a lot more visibility now on this product after that gigantic spike that they see on the chart. Especially now in the Babylon community, essentially all the LSD project has come to us like, hey, because they're going to do this again, right? There's a phase 2, so they want to know how to protect themselves against this beforehand.
I was gonna say, so like, it sounds like this could be more of a platform that is utilized by more of like entities versus the retail user. But is that how you envision it, or do you kind of see this as being both sides, of retail and entity?
Yeah. So I had my hypothesis before this went live, but some of the hypothesis was proven wrong, some hypothesis proven correct. I think there are certain entities that definitely want to use this, that very clearly like express that intent. And there's some other kind of entities that we thought they would want to use this kind of things, but turns out they don't need it because they have so much money already. And and I thought like this is not, I thought this is not something that's suitable for retail, right? Because there's a lot of numbers that you have to look at.
Yeah.
And it's much easier to just mint uncommon goods when the fee rate is low and just like.
Dude, I love that you know that.
Awesome. Everybody does that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how you manually hedge, right? The mempool is uncommon goods. But yeah, anyways, back to your point.
Yeah, but that's not precise, right? Like you don't know when uncommon goods is going to pump or ever going to pump. And you want to make sure you sell before everyone. Like, all these other things that you don't know. Whereas this gives you a much more precise, like I guess like cost management or like how much you want to gamble. I think it's still, the UX is still a little bit difficult for retail to participate directly. One thing I'm interested in just like exploring is I want to work with a good, like a solid ordinal team that launch collections, because in theory we can create a mapping between these ordinal collections and these EVM contracts. And so when users who are very much more familiar with ordinals, they just buy an ordinal, and this collection, that particular collection, has a mapping with contract, like long positions on Alkimiya. So they don't need to think about like, oh, like these pricing or these, well, they should still know like these things. But if they choose not to, they don't have to. And you will have an ordinal that is kind of, it tracks fee rate. It's kind of like a fee battery, right? Like, and when the network fee increases, the value of that ordinal intrinsically increases. But
That's
we have not launched the ordinal collection ourselves before. I think we're a little bit small of a team to do multiple things. So we want to work with a team that's experienced with that.
But how would that work in the sense of, if the fee rate goes up, the ordinal item value goes up? Like, how would that work? Would it, like, something within the team go and buy the floors of the collection, or how would it work?
Oh, it's not that complicated. So it just have one ordinal that said, okay, this ordinal is the mirror of this contract on Alkimiya.
Okay.
So they're the same thing. So it's just you hold this ordinal gives you the claim to this contract on Alkimiya, and it's just because if you don't want to like use MetaMask, right? You don't want to handle WBTC. You just want to use BTC. You just want to hold ordinals. This becomes a way for you to, and you can trade that like as if you're trading an ordinal. But the how many Bitcoin that I guess fee ordinals has it represents can be tracked easily on Alkimiya.
I got what
it's kind of like bridging it in, basically, right? Like making it something like that. Yeah. Someone like Ordinals Bot. Have you ever heard of Ordinals Bot?
I have not.
I think they would be like the perfect partner for you guys. I would definitely reach out to them. I can send you over their information. We're good friends with Bruff Star and the guys over there. Someone like that would be absolutely perfect for you guys, right? Do you think Yagobi?
Yeah, probably. Once they kind of settled down on
Yeah.
getting this done, because like he said, they're trying to make sure that they don't have like a million things at once. But yeah, I mean, I think that could be a good connection for sure. But
yeah, they have connection with Marathon. They've done Leonidas's Runestone. They inscribed that and stuff. So they're very yeah, they're probably the best right now as of right now for my knowledge.
I mean, I feel like Leo's definitely like he's a part of our culture because he knows so much about like Bitcoin mining and the mempool and stuff like that. It's like I can't wait to once there is an opportunity for you guys to build on like Fractal or something like that in the future. But obviously this is great. I think this connects to Bitcoin because of the mempool. It teaches people like stuff like this is what taught me the past year about. I didn't know how Bitcoin worked before we started our podcast. I was like, oh yeah, I just send Bitcoin to my brother and he sends it back to me. And that's it, But then like after we did Ordinal Revolution, I learned how the mempool worked. I learned about inscribing, how nodes work and stuff like that. And this is just another thing that I think can educate people. But really, from your like a business or founder perspective, I think this is a huge opportunity for those medium-sized entities and businesses that can use this to hedge. Because, like you said, the two big ones, they're probably not going to look at this because they can lose $18 million in a day, not blink an eye. But those medium-sized companies, they will use this. So,
100%. Well, Leo, we're getting to the end part of the show here, man. Really appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. I kind of want to give you the stage, though, to kind of talk to our audience. The stage is yours. You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, well, thanks again for having me and letting me talk about this project. It's a lot of research and over many years that led to this. And there are many like different directions that we've taken and different like trials and errors that we've done to arrive at this. And it's still not perfect. It's far from what we envisioned. Mostly on the UX, but I think on the protocol side we feel pretty comfortable. And yeah, I think I personally started in Bitcoin, took a little bit detour and came back. I still think Bitcoin is the most awesome thing, and by far. And I think more people should use Bitcoin, right? And I think we'll be doing this thing justice, or doing Satoshi Nakamoto injustice if they just sit around in BlackRock's custodian.
There you go.
On Coinbase and not moving. Yeah, I think Ordinals is the first it's truly the first revolution, right? To change the culture that has ossified in Bitcoin for a very long time. I think it needs more fuel. It needs to keep going so that we can break through the second escape velocity, I guess. So that we can see like confidence, we can see more Bitcoin native lending, Bitcoin native swaps, and Bitcoin native like stable coins.
100%, man. Well, Leo, thank you so much for joining us on Ordinal Revolution, and definitely the door's open for if you ever want to jump back on for like any updates or anything. So we appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
Leo. See you, man. Well, absolutely amazing. He was phenomenal. Like you said, beginning of the show, we met him in Nashville. Really want to understand this project, and I have a good understanding now. I might start doing this honestly, and I would love to. If they can get like the week stuff, it's not for me. But if I can get like 3 weeks out or 4 weeks out, depending on how bullish I am that week, that could be fun. You know what I mean? Nothing crazy. 50, 100. I can afford to lose, and just kind of just to seeing if I'm right, because I feel like I could be more right than wrong, right? When it comes,
that's what they all think, and then they go broke. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, it'd be really cool for like a degen mode or something to where it's like they had like a different version, more simplified, I think. But you have to understand, I feel like this is really built for like a strong business model foundation, because I mean, it's almost kind of B2B a little bit. You know what I mean? Because like, and that's where a lot of in my opinion, like a lot of profit could be made there, you know. And if it can be simplified for the everyday degen user, you know, people in our space will use the hell out of this. But I do agree. I think that, you know, once they build this out, they'll probably make it a lot more clear for that. But yeah, I mean, that awesome conversation with Leo for sure. You know, I love seeing this, and it's like people that start with Bitcoin and they kind of just evolve because Bitcoin was boring. Let's be honest, it was very, very boring. It was a bunch of podcasters, not like us, boring podcasters. But then and then people come back to Bitcoin, you know, and it's like this. So
yeah, man, his story is very similar to a lot of people, right? So you start on Bitcoin, you leave, just like me and you. You know, I left for Ethereum, then went to Fano, and then came back. And yeah, I'm not leaving. And I don't think anyone who comes back and sees this Ordinal Revolution that we're having, which was amazing play on words by him. You know, it was, you know, I truly believe that, you know, so. But amazing conversation, amazing episode. Really appreciate you guys watching. Please hit the like, please hit the subscribe. And we're live Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Pacific, and 3 p.m. UTC. So check us out all week.
Yep. And guys, if you have a moment, please check out our partners. BitPerp is a premium perpetual DEX that will be launching on Bitcoin Layer 2 in Q4. Paper trading competition in 4 weeks from today. We spoke with the team, so get ready for that. It's going to be a bunch of fun. We're going to be doing some stuff with our community with that. Also, Ordinal Hive, they are a aggregator marketplace on native Bitcoin, guys. So Magic Eden, Unisat, all these other marketplaces, you're going to get the cheapest price at Ordinal Hive, and they've also scaled out to Merlin chain. So you can visit beta.ordinalhive.io, go to their Merlin chain site, go earn points, because they're doing something similar to what Blur did. So you know what Blur did with their points? That's what they're doing with theirs. So you can earn those points now. There's not a ton of people using it yet. So you can get to that website and start earning right away. Fluid Tokens is a Bitcoin native runes DEX. They use limit buy and sell orders, and they split up the runes for you, so you don't have to do any of that headache stuff. But they also announced a layer 1 staking, guys, and it should be available here in about a week or so. You'll be able to stake different things. Your Billy Cats, I heard that could be one of the first projects, and then you can earn possibly the Billy token. So just look out for that. It's going to be very, very interesting. Those guys are innovators that came over from Cardano, so they know what they're doing. And then VDEX, Rothium DEX, is a Merlin chain synthetic Bitcoin layer 1 synthetic asset DEX where you can stake your BRC 420s. And last but not least is Foxy. They are building the Bitverse. They are a tap protocol project, but we will be live streaming the Bitverse game, Shizzy and I, and the Ordinal Revolution clan here in the next couple of days, tomorrow actually, and we're gonna win. So don't even try it.
Yeah, by the time this goes out, though, it might have been yesterday. Just
true.
But guys, go check out ordinalrevolution.com as well. We have some of the best articles over here. If you know someone just getting entered into space, send them our website. We feel like we can really get them caught up from articles dating back to all the way from last September, right? So check this out. Send this to someone that's new. And if you're interested in some merch, check out our store. We have some of the best merch in Ordinals. Just check it out. Take a look. See if you like something. Send your kids back to school with the Ordinal Revolution school bag, right? But that's the show, guys. I really appreciate you guys. And like I said, join us live all week. And we'll see you next time.
Peace.
Ordinal Revolution. Let's go.